Why don't we get straight into a Dortmund chat? Because I've got them in at number 5, you got them in at number 2.
Yeah,
I guess I'll start with why I have them a bit lower ranked than you do. My biggest issue with Dortmund is just the lack of showing up against teams that they should be beating, and this is a Dortmund problem of a long time now. Um, last season they lost games to Paderborn, or I'm sorry, they drew with Paderborn and Bremen, and they lost to Mainz. Paderborn and Bremen were both teams that finished in the bottom 3, and that's games they have to be winning. When you're in a league like the Bundesliga and you have a team like Bayern, I would compare it, to La Liga. If you're not Barcelona or Real Madrid, you have to be beating everybody that you should beat. These little, these smaller teams that nick a draw against you or even nick a win against you, it's really just season ending for you because Bayern are going to run away with the title. And that's my issue with Dortmund is, they're a very young team. I think that leads into it a little bit of why they may not have the motivation against some of these smaller teams. But you see a lot of individual mistakes in those games. And that's really my biggest issue. I think if Dortmund beat the teams that they should be beating, they would be up there with Bayern every single season. But it just kind of year in, year out proves to be the case with them that they tend to get up for the big games and they don't for the smaller games. So that's really
yeah,
why I've got them in at number 5. If they go on and win 10 straight, then for me, they've got to be considered a top 2 or 3 team in Europe, but I'm just not there
yeah.
with them yet.
I think we've got to give them a chance this season because they've not lost anything stupid in the last few weeks. They've pretty much beat everything put in front of them recently, with the exception of Bayern. But I think the reason I've got them so high up is when you have a game like that, Dortmund, one of the best teams in Europe, against the best team in Europe, that is when you can really learn what a side has got. Um, and like you said, with the XG, which is nerdy to bring up, but with the XG, Dortmund should have won that game. They should have won that game. But unfortunately, Haaland couldn't put his chances away, which is a real shame for Dortmund. But essentially, the result is what people are going to look back on paper. And basically, the main takeaway from the game is you can't afford Bayern a sniff because they get half a chance and they'll put it in the back of the net. Like Lewandowski's header was really difficult. And somehow, I mean, it's not somehow because we know what kind of form he's in at the moment, but that just ends up in the bottom corner. You just can't afford to give Bayern a sniff. So I think the fact that they created so much against Bayern and that they potentially should have won the game really showed me that they have got a lot about them. They can pose any team in Europe massive problems. And I would certainly be terrified to come up against them this season in the Champions League. I'm praying City avoid them.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I see in this Dortmund team that are slightly different from Dortmund teams of the past. I think typically in the game against Bayern, they would tend to get run off the park. Um, you know, Dortmund have always been the quote unquote second best team in Germany, but a lot of times you get the sense that it's the best of the rest team and not somebody that's directly competing with Bayern because Bayern typically
Yeah,
run away with it. But you saw in this game that they keyed in on what Bayern's weaknesses were, and that weakness is their high line, and you can get in behind that high line. And like you said, if Holland could take his chances, that game could have been like 5-1 in the first half. It was that wide open for Dortmund. So I am feeling a bit more confident about Lucien Favre than I have in years past. I think it was not necessarily a tactical masterclass, but he set out with the right setup, with the right ideas in that Bayern game. But like I said, I love this Bayern team. I love the youth. I love the whole identity of the club that you take these younger talents from Germany or from around the world, sorry, and you give them a chance to play in front of 80,000 people and probably the best atmosphere in Europe. And, you look at a guy like Jude Bellingham was used as a
yeah,
tactical sub in Der Klassiker. This is a 17-year-old kid from Birmingham, and he comes on and they basically gave him the keys to the midfield for about 25 minutes.
yeah.
So I
He got
love,
his first. He got his first England call up today first senior England call up, and if he plays against Ireland, he will be the third youngest to ever play for us. Behind, well, you have a guess. Have a guess who will be behind. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Right,
There's
third
two.
youngest.
two
I'm gonna I'm gonna say Wayne Rooney is one.
yeah, that's one. The other one's a bit more difficult.
Can you give me an era?
I think it's around 2006. It's very fast. He's a very fast boy. Very quick indeed. Was
I'm blanking.
Theo Walcott. Theo Walcott is
Uh,
the other youngest, and I think
that
he
makes
scored a hat
sense.
trick not long after his debut. Theo Walcott. But anyway, I'm straying way off topic here. Yeah,
Uh,
like you said,
no, I like a
Bellingham
bit of
giving the
trivia.
keys.
So
Yeah, Bellingham giving the keys to the midfield, and at 17, he's got his first England call up this week. So yeah, like you say, Dortmund using the youth is a really good thing to see.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to wrap it up, like I said, if this team can get up for those games against, a Freiburg, Mainz, Werder Bremen, and they start getting 3 points in the games they should be getting 3 points in, then they will be there and thereabouts with Bayern, because Bayern does have some weaknesses. For all the might that Bayern is, they do have some weaknesses. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Can I
mean,
just say as well?
yeah,
Can I just say, I don't see Dortmund as overachieving at the moment. If you look through their starting lineup, they have got such a good team. The only thing they can't really compete with Bayern on is the squad depth. But Haaland is in absolutely unbelievable form at the minute up top. Behind him, they've got Sancho, Royce, and 17-year-old Giovanni Reina, who looks a really tidy player. And then behind them, you've got Witzel and Delaney, two top class, experienced, industrious, kind of holding midfielders. And then you've got a reasonable back line as well. Hummels, Akanji, Mounier, Guerrero, and Berkey in goal. So their starting 11 is bordering on complete, apart with maybe the exception of the defense. But Bayern aren't exactly, the defense is Bayern's weak point as well. So
yeah,
they can honestly compete with Bayern. 11 versus 11, they can compete with them. They haven't quite got the squad depth to do it, but Dortmund are a very serious team that aren't overachieving. They've got a really good squad. And I think as time goes on, if they can keep hold of some of these star youngsters, then they're going to go places and really give Bayern a good challenge.
yeah, absolutely. Well, only time will tell with Dortmund. They've got not too bad of a run of games coming up, so if they can keep this winning streak, well, they've lost one now, but if they can win their next three or four, that'll put them in pole position, I think, to stay with Bayern in a sustained title race and keep all of us interested in the Bundesliga later than January,
Yeah,
which would be
that'll make a
nice for,
change.
yeah.